Picture this. You're standing at the gates of the Underworld, controller in hand, ready to embark on another escape attempt from the depths of Hades. But wait, something feels different this time. The protagonist gripping their weapon isn't the familiar figure of ZAGREUS, son of Hades, desperately fighting his way to the surface world. Instead, it's Melinoë, princess of the Underworld, wielding magic and moonlight as she battles to reclaim her home from the titan Chronos. This shift from Hades to Hades too represents more than just a sequel. It's a complete reimagining of what it means to be the protagonist in Supergiant Games' critically acclaimed roguelike universe. Where ZAGREUS fought to escape his father's domain, Melinoë fights to save it. Where one character embodied rebellion and the desire for freedom, the other represents duty and the weight of responsibility. The question that's been burning through the gaming community since Hades 2 entered early access isn't just about which game is better. It's about which protagonist captures our hearts, our imagination, and our thumbs more effectively. Who tells the more compelling story? Who offers the more satisfying gameplay experience? Who, ultimately, stands as the superior protagonist in this tale of gods, family, and the eternal struggle between order and chaos? If you enjoy topics like this, I'd really appreciate a quick like, or even a subscribe. It helps more than you know. I'm always curious where you all are listening from. So, drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Love seeing our little global community connect through similar interests. Now, dim the lights, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Today, we're diving deep into the Underworld to examine every aspect of these 2 remarkable characters. We'll explore their motivations, their character development, their relationships with the sprawling cast of gods and mortals that populate their worlds. We'll analyze their combat styles, their progression systems, and how each character's unique abilities shape the way we experience their respective games. ZAGREUS burst onto the scene as the rebellious prince of the Underworld, armed with wit, determination, and an unshakable desire to reach the surface world and find his mother, Persephone. His journey was one of self-discovery, of challenging authority, and of slowly unraveling the complex web of family secrets that had shaped his entire existence. Players fell in love with his sardonic humor, his genuine care for the denizens of Hades, and his refusal to accept the limitations placed upon him by his father's rigid rule. But Melinoë represents something entirely different. Where ZAGREUS was the outsider trying to break free, Melinoë is the rightful heir trying to reclaim what was stolen. Her story begins not with rebellion, but with loss. The House of Hades has fallen to Chronos, the Titan of Time, and she must gather allies, master powerful magic, and venture into both the underworld and the surface world to restore balance to the cosmos itself. These fundamental differences in motivation create ripple effects throughout every aspect of their respective games. ZAGREUS's escape attempts were ultimately selfish, driven by personal desire and curiosity about the world above. There's nothing wrong with this, mind you. Some of the greatest stories ever told center around characters pursuing their own dreams and desires. But Melinoë's quest carries the weight of cosmic responsibility. She's not just fighting for herself, but for every soul in the underworld, for the natural order that keeps the world functioning. This shift in stakes naturally influences how we perceive and connect with each character. ZAGREUS feels more relatable, more human in his desires and frustrations. We've all felt trapped by circumstances beyond our control, all yearned for freedom from oppressive situations. Melinoë, on the other hand, embodies the burden of leadership, the sacrifice required of those who must put duty before personal desire. From a gameplay perspective, these character differences manifest in fascinating ways. ZAGREUS was primarily a melee fighter, getting up close and personal with the denizens of Tartarus, Asphodel, Elysium, and the Temple of Styx. His combat was visceral, immediate, and required players to master timing, positioning, and resource management. Every boon from the Olympian gods felt like a personal gift, a small advantage in his seemingly impossible quest. Melinoë introduces magic as a primary combat element, fundamentally changing how players approach encounters. Her ability to cast spells, manipulate lunar and shadow magic, and engage enemies from multiple ranges creates a more complex tactical landscape. Where ZAGREUS relied on quick reflexes and pattern recognition, MELINOE demands strategic thinking and resource allocation on a deeper level. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of comparing these protagonists lies in their relationships with the supporting cast. ZAGREUS developed bonds through repeated interactions, slowly earning the respect and affection of characters like Megara, Thanatos, and even his stern father Hades. His character growth was measured not just in statistical improvements, but in the evolving conversations and relationships that painted a picture of a young god coming into his own. Melinoe's relationships carry different weight and meaning. She's not building connections from scratch, but rather rekindling bonds that were severed by Chronos' assault on the House of Hades. Her interactions with characters like Hecate, her mentor in magic, and the various allies she recruits for her cause reflect themes of trust, leadership, and the heavy burden of living up to others' expectations. Throughout this deep dive, we'll examine how these character differences impact everything from moment-to-moment gameplay decisions to the overarching narrative satisfaction of each game. We'll look at how Supergiant Games evolved their storytelling techniques between the two titles, how they refined their approach to character progression and player motivation. We'll also consider the broader implications of each protagonist's journey. What does ZAGREUS' story say about family, authority, and the right to self-determination? How does Melinoë's quest reflect themes of responsibility, sacrifice, and the price of power? Which character's arc offers more meaningful commentary on the human condition, despite both being decidedly inhuman gods? By the end of our exploration, you'll have a comprehensive understanding of what makes each protagonist unique, compelling, and worthy of consideration as one of gaming's great characters. Whether you're Team ZAGREUS or Team Melinoë, or perhaps still undecided, this analysis will give you the tools to appreciate the remarkable craft that went into creating both of these unforgettable characters. So grab your favorite weapon, stock up on nectar, and prepare to journey through both the familiar depths of Hades and the expanded realms of Hades too. The Underworld awaits, and there's never been a better time to examine what makes these protagonists truly special. Chapter 1: Origins and Motivations, the Foundation of Character. The air crackles with anticipation, doesn't it? You feel it too. The familiar heat of the underworld, the scent of ash and ambition, but something's undeniably different this time around. Because this isn't ZAGREUS' story anymore, it's Melinoë's. And to truly understand her, to grasp why her quest feels so distinct, so necessary, we have to journey back. Back before the incantations, before the Hecate's lessons, before the first swing of the crescent sickle. We have to understand where she comes from and what drives her forward. ZAGREUS in many ways was a creature of impulse. Driven by a yearning for the unknown, fueled by a rebellious spirit, he chafed against the rigid structure of the House of Hades. His motivations were painted in broad strokes: freedom, escape, a desire to meet his birth mother, Persephone. His family dynamics, though complex, were relatively straightforward. He was the son who didn't quite fit, the outsider looking in. Melinoë, on the other hand, is steeped in the weight of responsibility from the very beginning. Her lineage is a tangled tapestry of gods and mortals, whispers and secrets. She's not just the princess of the underworld, she's a figure of prophecy, a protector of balance, burdened by expectations she never asked for. Think about it. ZAGREUS had the luxury of ignorance, the blissful freedom to pursue his own desires without fully understanding the consequences. Melinoë? She's acutely aware of the stakes, the potential ramifications of her actions. The fate of the entire underworld, perhaps even the mortal realm, rests on her shoulders. Her relationship with Hades, her father, is markedly different. While ZAGREUS's was defined by conflict and resentment, Melinoë's is complicated. There's respect, certainly, perhaps even a strained affection, but also a sense of duty, an understanding of the roles they both must play. He's not just her father, he's the king of the underworld, and she's his heir apparent in a way ZAGREUS never was. And Persephone? Well, that's where things get even more interesting. For ZAGREUS, Persephone was the ultimate goal, the object of his desperate quest. For Melinoë, she's a figure shrouded in mystery, a maternal presence both powerful and distant. The absence of Persephone casts a long shadow over Melinoë's life, fueling her determination to restore balance and uncover the truth behind her disappearance. But it's not just her immediate family that shakes Melinoë. The broader pantheon plays a crucial role in her development. Unlike ZAGREUS, who largely forged his own path, relying on the boons of the Olympians to aid his escape attempts, Melinoë is deeply entwined with the ancient powers of the Underworld. She draws strength from Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft, from Moros, the personification of doom, and from a host of other chthonic deities. These relationships aren't merely transactional either. They represent a deep connection to the history and mythology of the Underworld, a sense of belonging that ZAGREUS never quite achieved. Melinoë isn't just fighting for herself, she's fighting for her family, her heritage, her very existence. Now let's talk about motivations. ZAGREUS wanted freedom. He wanted to escape the confines of his father's kingdom and discover the world beyond. His journey was one of self-discovery, a quest to define himself outside the shadow of Hades. Melinoë's motivations are far more complex. She's not driven by a desire for personal liberation, but by a sense of obligation. She seeks to restore balance to the Underworld, to vanquish Chronos, the Titan of Time, and to unravel the mysteries surrounding Persephone's disappearance. Think about the sheer weight of that responsibility. Imagine knowing that the fate of the world rests on your shoulders, that every decision you make could have catastrophic consequences. That's the burden Melinoë carries, the fire that fuels her every action. And it's that burden that truly sets her apart from ZAGREUS. He was driven by a desire for personal fulfillment. She's driven by a sense of duty to something larger than herself. He was an individual seeking escape. She's a leader fighting to protect her home. Consider their relationships with the other characters. ZAGREUS built alliances with the Olympians, forging temporary bonds based on mutual benefit. Melinoë, on the other hand, seeks to restore existing relationships, to mend the fractured bonds of her family and her kingdom. She's not just looking for allies, she's looking for comrades, for individuals who share her vision and are willing to fight alongside her. She understands that she can't do this alone, that she needs the support of her friends, her family, and her fellow deities. This difference in approach is crucial to understanding their respective journeys. ZAGREUS was a lone wolf, forging his own path through the Underworld. Melinoë is a pack leader, rallying her allies to face a common threat. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I get it. Melinoë is more responsible, more burdened, more connected to the Underworld than ZAGREUS ever was. But does that make her a better character? And that's the wrong question to ask. It's not about which character is better, but about which character resonates with you on a deeper level. Do you connect with ZAGREUS's rebellious spirit and his desire for personal freedom? Or do you find yourself drawn to Melinoë's sense of duty and her unwavering commitment to her family and her kingdom? Both characters offer something unique and compelling, a different perspective on the challenges and triumphs of life in the Underworld. And it's that contrast that makes the Hades universe so rich and rewarding. But let's not forget the broader context here. ZAGREUS's story was, in many ways, a coming-of-age tale. He started as a rebellious youth, desperate to escape his father's shadow, and gradually grew into a more mature and responsible individual. Melinoë's story, on the other hand, is a tale of leadership. She starts as a young princess, burdened by responsibility, and must learn to embrace her destiny and lead her people against a seemingly insurmountable foe. Think about the implications of that difference. ZAGREUS's journey was about self-discovery. Melinoë's journey is about self-sacrifice. He was fighting for his own freedom, she's fighting for the freedom of others. And that's why her story feels so different, so urgent, so vital. She's not just escaping the Underworld, she's fighting to save it. She's not just seeking personal fulfillment, she's seeking to restore balance to a world in chaos. Her motivations are rooted in a deep sense of empathy, a profound understanding of the suffering of others. She sees the pain and despair that Chronos has inflicted on the Underworld, and she refuses to stand idly by while her people suffer. This empathy extends to her relationships with the other characters. She doesn't just see them as allies or tools to be used in her quest, she sees them as individuals with their own hopes, dreams, and fears. She cares about their well-being, and she's willing to risk her own life to protect them. And that's what makes her such a compelling character. She's not just a powerful warrior or a skilled mage, she's a compassionate leader, a fierce protector, and a true embodiment of hope in the face of despair. So, as you embark on Melinoë's journey, remember her origins, her motivations, and the weight of responsibility she carries on her shoulders. Remember that she's not just fighting for herself, she's fighting for the future of the Underworld. And remember that, in her quest to restore balance and vanquish Chronos, she'll need your help. You'll need to master her unique combat style, forge alliances with the gods, and unravel the mysteries that surround her. Because the fate of the Underworld, and perhaps even the mortal realm, rests in your hands. Are you ready to accept the challenge? Are you ready to become Melinoë's champion? The contrast between ZAGREUS' impulsive yearning and Melinoë's burdened responsibility isn't just a matter of different personalities, is it? It's a reflection of the game's evolving themes, a shift from personal liberation to collective salvation. It's a mirror held up to the player, asking us what kind of hero we want to be. But how do these fundamental differences in their origins and motivations actually translate into their individual journeys? How does ZAGREUS' coming-of-age story compare to Melinoë's leadership development? And, perhaps most importantly, how do our actions as players influence their growth and shape their destinies? That, my friend, is the story we'll be diving into next. Chapter 2, Narrative Arcs and Character Development, Growth Through Struggle. ZAGREUS' journey from rebellious prince to acknowledged son is a masterclass in the coming-of-age narrative. It's a story etched in blood and darkness, but ultimately painted with the vibrant hues of acceptance and belonging. He begins as a discontent youth, suffocated by his father's expectations and desperate to escape the confines of the House of Hades. His motivations are simple: freedom and the chance to find his birth mother, Persephone. But how does he actually change? It's not just about becoming a stronger fighter, though that's certainly part of it. It's about understanding. With each failed escape attempt, each conversation with the denizens of the Underworld, ZAGREUS peels back another layer of the truth. He learns about his family history, the reasons behind Hades' stern demeanor, and the sacrifices that have shaped the world around him. Think about his interactions with Achilles. Initially, Achilles is a mentor, a guide in combat. But as ZAGREUS persists, a deeper bond forms. Achilles sees in ZAGREUS a reflection of his own unwavering dedication, a kindred spirit who refuses to give up, even in the face of overwhelming odds. This mentorship evolves into a genuine friendship, one that provides ZAGREUS with the emotional support he desperately needs. And then there's Thanatos, the embodiment of death. Their relationship starts as a rivalry, a competition to see who can reap the most souls. But beneath the surface lies a shared sense of isolation, a burden of responsibility that only they can truly understand. Their interactions become less about competition and more about mutual respect, even affection. These relationships, forged in the fires of the Underworld, are crucial to ZAGREUS' development. Key story beats like discovering the truth about Persephone's exile, confronting Hades about his past, and ultimately choosing to reconcile with his father, showcase ZAGREUS' growing maturity. He learns that freedom isn't just about running away, it's about making choices, accepting consequences, and forging his own path, even within the confines of his family's legacy. Now, consider Melinoë. Her narrative is markedly different. She isn't seeking escape, but rather confronting a threat, Hecate, who has disrupted the balance of the Underworld. Melinoë begins her journey already burdened with responsibility. As the princess of the Underworld, she feels obligated to restore order and protect her family and the realms they oversee. Her story is less about personal discovery and more about leadership. She must rally the other gods, train in the art of witchcraft, and ultimately confront Hecate to reclaim what was lost. Unlike ZAGREUS, who starts with almost nothing, Melinoë begins with a network of pre-existing relationships. She has her mentor, Hecate, her loyal companion, Cerberus, and the support of her mother, Persephone. But these relationships are tested throughout her journey. She must learn to trust her own instincts, make difficult decisions that affect those around her, and ultimately prove herself worthy of the mantle of leadership. Think about her interactions with Odysseus. He's a seasoned warrior and strategist, but he's also wary and cynical. Melinoë must earn his trust, convince him that she's capable of leading the fight against Hecate. And then there's Moros, the embodiment of doom. He constantly reminds Melinoë of the challenges ahead, the potential for failure, and the sacrifices that will be required. Melinoë must learn to navigate his pessimism, find strength in her own convictions, and inspire hope in the face of despair. Her narrative arc is about embracing her destiny, accepting the weight of her responsibilities, and becoming the leader that the underworld needs. Key story beats such as mastering different types of magic, forging alliances with the gods, and confronting Hecate's minions showcase Melinoë's growth as a leader. She learns that leadership isn't just about wielding power, it's about inspiring others, making difficult choices, and protecting those under her care. One particularly striking contrast lies in how player actions influence their growth. For ZAGREUS, player skill directly translates to his growing confidence and understanding of the underworld. Each successful escape attempt is a tangible representation of his progress, a testament to his unwavering determination. The more you play as ZAGREUS, the more you feel like you're growing alongside him, learning the intricacies of combat and uncovering the secrets of his past. With Melinoë, the connection is more strategic. Player choices in upgrading her abilities, selecting different arcana cards, and forging bonds with other characters directly influence her leadership potential. The way you choose to develop her magical abilities, the alliances you forge, and the strategies you employ all contribute to her growth as a leader. It's about the player making choices that reflect Melinoë's values. Do you prioritize raw power, or do you focus on strategic alliances? Do you embrace the darkness, or do you try to find hope in the face of despair? These choices shape Melinoë's character and determine the outcome of her journey. The effectiveness of each narrative structure is undeniable. ZAGREUS's coming-of-age story is relatable and emotionally resonant. His desire for freedom, his struggles with his father, and his search for belonging are all universal themes that resonate with players on a personal level. His story is a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of family, and the courage to forge your own path. Melinoë's leadership development, on the other hand, is empowering and inspiring. Her journey is about embracing responsibility, overcoming adversity, and becoming the hero that the world needs. Her story is a reminder that leadership isn't about perfection, it's about making difficult choices, inspiring others, and fighting for what you believe in. Both narratives are compelling in their own right, but they appeal to different aspects of the player's psyche. ZAGREUS's story tugs at the heartstrings, while Melinoë's story ignites a sense of purpose. The structure of each game reinforces this difference, with focusing on individual skill and personal discovery, while emphasizes strategic decision-making and collaborative efforts. But what if we delve deeper? What if we look beyond the surface-level narrative and examine the underlying themes that connect these two characters? Both ZAGREUS and Melinoë are, in their own way, challenging the status quo. ZAGREUS defies his father's expectations and seeks to change his own destiny. Melinoë confronts a rogue god and fights to restore balance to the underworld. They both represent a new generation, a shift in power dynamics, and a willingness to question the established order. They're not just fighting for themselves, they're fighting for a better future. A future where freedom and responsibility can coexist, where family bonds are valued, and where everyone has the opportunity to find their place in the world. And this shared theme of challenging the status quo is what truly elevates their stories beyond simple coming-of-age or leadership narratives. It's what makes them so compelling, so relatable, and so deeply resonant. It's a theme that speaks to our own desire for change, our own struggles against the established order, and our own hope for a better future. Consider the impact of death on their respective narratives. For ZAGREUS, death is a constant companion, a recurring obstacle that he must overcome time and time again. But each death is also a learning experience, a chance to refine his skills, uncover new secrets, and strengthen his resolve. Death becomes a tool for growth, a catalyst for change. For Melinoë, death is a more serious matter. She's not simply escaping the underworld, she's fighting to protect it from a powerful enemy. Death has greater consequences, a greater sense of finality. When Melinoë falls, the realms she's fighting to protect suffer. Her deaths are not just personal setbacks, they're setbacks for the entire underworld. This difference in the treatment of death reflects the different stakes of each narrative. ZAGREUS is fighting for his own freedom, while Melinoë is fighting for the survival of her world. This contrast adds another layer of depth to their respective journeys, highlighting the different burdens they carry and the different challenges they face. And what about the role of prophecy? The prophecies of the fates provide Zagreus with guidance and encouragement. They offer glimpses of the future, hinting at the rewards that await him if he perseveres. The prophecies act as a roadmap, guiding Zagreus on his path to freedom. Prophecy is more ambiguous and ominous. MELINOE is haunted by visions of a dark future, a future where Hecate reigns supreme and the underworld is plunged into chaos. These visions serve as a constant reminder of the stakes involved, the potential for failure, and the need for vigilance. This contrast in the role of prophecy reflects the different tones of each game. Is ultimately a hopeful story, a story about overcoming adversity and finding your place in the world. On the other hand, is a darker and more foreboding tale, a story about fighting against overwhelming odds and confronting the potential for ultimate destruction. But this darker tone doesn't diminish Melinoë's appeal. In fact, it makes her journey even more compelling. She's not just fighting for a better future, she's fighting to prevent a catastrophic one. Her struggles are all the more relatable because they reflect our own anxieties about the future, our own fears about the potential for disaster. It's this willingness to embrace the darkness, to confront the uncomfortable truths about the world, that makes MELINOE such a compelling protagonist. She's not just a hero, she's a survivor, a warrior who is willing to do whatever it takes to protect those she cares about. So, we've explored the narrative arcs of Zagreus and Melinoë, dissected their character development, and compared their respective journeys. We've seen how their motivations, relationships, and actions shape their destinies. But this exploration was only the beginning, because next we uncover the combat philosophies and gameplay identities that truly set these two protagonists apart. Chapter 3: Combat Philosophy and Gameplay Identity, the Art of Divine Warfare. Let's talk about the heart of any roguelike, the combat. It's not just about swinging a sword or casting a spell. It's about you swing that sword, you weave those spells, and what that says about the character you're controlling. For Zagreus, combat is a raw, visceral expression of his rebellious spirit. He's not a trained warrior in the traditional sense. He's scrappy, resourceful, and fueled by a burning desire for freedom. This translates directly into his gameplay. His weapon choices reflect this adaptability, ranging from the swift Stygian blade to the devastating Eternal Spear. Each weapon feels different, not just in terms of damage output or range, but in its fundamental rhythm. The Stygian blade encourages aggressive, close-quarters combat, rewarding quick reflexes and precise timing. The Eternal Spear allows for a more measured approach, poking and prodding enemies from a safe distance before closing in for the kill. And then there's the Shield of Chaos, a brutal instrument of both defense and offense, perfectly embodying Zagreus' relentless determination. But it's not just the weapons themselves, it's how Zagreus uses them. He's constantly moving, dodging, and weaving through enemy attacks. He relies on his speed and agility to outmaneuver his opponents. He's a whirlwind of motion, a force of nature unleashed upon the underworld. You, as the player, that energy with every dash, every attack, every perfectly timed dodge. And let's not forget the boons. The Olympian gods, ever fickle, offer Zagreus a variety of enhancements that fundamentally alter his combat style. A lightning-infused attack from Zeus, a poison-tipped blade from Aphrodite, a tidal wave from Poseidon. These boons transform Zagreus into a demigod of immense power, but they also reflect his journey and his willingness to accept help from unexpected sources. The beauty of Zagreus' combat is its accessibility. It's easy to pick up and play, but difficult to master. You can jump in and start hacking and slashing your way through the underworld without much prior knowledge, but as you progress, you'll discover hidden depths and intricate strategies. You'll learn to exploit enemy weaknesses, combine boons for devastating effects, and adapt your playstyle to overcome any challenge. Now, contrast this with Melinoë. Her combat philosophy is fundamentally different. Where Zagreus is a whirlwind of raw energy, Melinoë is a conductor of carefully orchestrated chaos. She's a witch, a sorceress, a mistress of dark magic. Her fighting style reflects her training, her heritage, and her profound connection to the underworld. Her signature weapon, the witch's staff, is not just a tool for delivering blows, it's a conduit for her magic. It allows her to channel her power, to manipulate the elements and to unleash devastating spells upon her enemies. But unlike ZAGREUS, who relies on direct physical attacks, MELINOE prefers a more tactical approach. She's all about positioning, timing, and controlling the battlefield. Her magic manifests in a variety of forms, each with its own unique properties and effects. She can summon spectral allies to fight alongside her, create barriers to protect herself from harm, and unleash devastating curses that weaken her enemies. Her Omega moves, charged-up versions of her basic attacks, are particularly potent, capable of wiping out entire groups of enemies with a single well-placed blast. But Melinoe's combat is not just about raw power, it's about finesse, precision, and control. She needs to carefully manage her magic reserves, to choose the right spell for the right situation, and to anticipate her enemy's movements. She's a strategist, a tactician, a master of the arcane arts. And just like ZAGREUS, Melinoe receives boons from the Olympian gods, but these boons feel different, more aligned with her magical abilities. They enhance her spells, amplify her curses, and grant her new and terrifying powers. She can summon storms of ice, unleash torrents of fire, and even manipulate the very fabric of reality. Melinoe's combat system is a bit more complex than ZAGREUS's. It requires a deeper understanding of the game's mechanics and a greater willingness to experiment. But once you master it, you'll find that it offers a level of depth and strategic complexity that is unmatched. You'll feel like a true sorceress, wielding the power of the Underworld to crush your enemies. So, what does all of this mean? Why is it so important that ZAGREUS and Melinoe have such distinct combat styles? The answer is simple. It's about character. Their fighting styles are not just gameplay mechanics, they're an extension of their personalities. ZAGREUS's raw, visceral combat reflects his rebellious spirit and his determination to break free from Melinoe's tactical, magic-based combat reflects her intelligence, her training, and her deep connection to the Underworld. These differences in combat philosophy also create a sense of variety and replayability. Playing as ZAGREUS feels fundamentally different from playing as Melinoe. They each offer a unique experience, a unique challenge, and a unique perspective on the world of Hades. Think about it. When you're playing as ZAGREUS, you're constantly pushing forward, charging into the fray, relying on your speed and agility to survive. You're a rebel, a fighter, a force to be reckoned with. But when you're playing as Melinoe, you're more cautious, more deliberate, more strategic. You're planning your moves, anticipating your enemy's attacks, and using your magic to control the battlefield. You're a sorceress, a tactician, a master of the arcane arts. This contrast in gameplay styles is not just a matter of preference. It's a matter of character. It's about embodying the protagonist, understanding their motivations, and experiencing the world through their eyes. It's about feeling the thrill of the fight, the satisfaction of victory, and the sting of defeat. And that's what makes the combat in both and so compelling. It's not just about killing enemies, it's about expressing yourself, about embodying a character, and about experiencing a story through action. But how does this combat translate to actual player engagement? ZAGREUS's more straightforward approach makes incredibly accessible. New players can jump in and immediately feel like they're making progress. The constant stream of upgrades, boons, and weapon aspects provides a steady sense of progression, keeping players hooked even when they're facing repeated defeats. Melinoe, on the other hand, offers a different kind of engagement. Her more complex combat system might be intimidating at first, but it rewards players who are willing to invest the time and effort to master it. The depth and strategic complexity of her gameplay provide a sense of intellectual stimulation that keeps players coming back for more. Furthermore, the visual feedback in both games is crucial. The impact of ZAGREUS's attacks, the swirling animations of Melinoe's spells, the satisfying crunch of a critical hit. These visual cues reinforce the feeling of power and control, making the combat feel even more visceral and engaging. Sound design plays an equally important role. The clang of steel, the crackle of lightning, the guttural roars of the Underworld's denizens. These sounds create a rich and immersive soundscape that enhances the overall combat experience. The music, too, dynamically adapts to the action on screen, intensifying the tension during battles and providing a sense of triumph after a hard-fought victory. And let's not underestimate the importance of weapon variety. Both ZAGREUS and MELINOE have access to a wide range of weapons, each with its own unique properties and playstyle. This variety encourages experimentation, allowing players to find the weapon that best suits their individual preferences. But it's not just about the weapons themselves, it's about how they interact with the boons and other upgrades. The combinations are virtually endless, allowing players to create truly unique and powerful builds. This sense of customization is a key element of player engagement, giving players a sense of ownership over their character and their playstyle. So, we've established that both ZAGREUS and MELINOE offer compelling and engaging combat experiences, but in different ways. ZAGREUS's combat is more accessible, more visceral, and more focused on raw power. MELINOE's combat is more complex, more tactical, and more focused on strategic control. But what about the supporting cast? How do their relationships with ZAGREUS and MELINOE influence their combat abilities? And how does the combat system reflect the broader social dynamics of the world of Hades? That, my friends, is a story for another time. Because next, we delve into the bonds that truly define these characters and see how their relationships impact everything. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover the story. Chapter 4. Relationships and Social Dynamics. Bonds that define us. The heat of Tartarus, the chill of Asphodel, the vibrant Elysium. Each realm a stage for relationships forged in fire and ice. For ZAGREUS, every escape attempt was a chance to connect, to mend, or to simply understand the denizens of his father's domain. His journey wasn't just about reaching the surface, it was about building bridges. Think about it. Nyx, his adoptive mother, a constant source of guidance and unwavering support. Her wisdom, delivered in hushed tones, shaped ZAGREUS's understanding of the world and his place within it. The respect and love were palpable, a warm counterpoint to the cold authority of Hades. And then there was Achilles, his mentor, his friend, his steadfast companion. Their bond, forged in training and tempered by shared secrets, provided ZAGREUS with the strength to face his father's disapproval. Achilles believed in him, even when ZAGREUS doubted himself. That belief was a powerful weapon, but the relationships in Hades weren't always so nurturing. Take Thanatos, for example. Their rivalry, born from childhood games and fueled by their respective roles, simmered beneath the surface. Yet, even in their competition, there was a deep-seated respect, a grudging admiration that hinted at something more. It was a relationship built on duality, a constant push and pull between affection and animosity. What about the gods of Olympus? Each boon offered was a chance to glimpse their personalities, their quirks, their often contradictory motivations. Zeus with his booming pronouncements and capricious nature, Athena with her strategic brilliance and unwavering commitment to justice, Aphrodite with her seductive charm and her focus on matters of the heart. Each interaction, however brief, painted a vivid portrait of the Olympian pantheon and their complex relationship with the underworld. And, of course, there was Dousa, the ever-apologetic, perpetually flustered headmaid of the House of Hades. Her crush on ZAGREUS, though often played for laughs, was a testament to his kindness and his genuine care for those around him. He took the time to listen to her anxieties, to offer words of encouragement, to make her feel seen. It was a small thing, perhaps, but it spoke volumes about his character. ZAGREUS was a collector of connections, a weaver of relationships. He sought to understand, to empathize, to build a community in a place often defined by isolation. His romantic options, while present, often felt secondary to these broader connections. They were opportunities to explore different facets of his personality, to experience different types of intimacy, but they never overshadowed his core mission, to find his mother and to forge his own path. Now, contrast this with MELINOE. Her world is one of fractured bonds, of relationships strained by war and neglect. She isn't building new connections so much as she's trying to restore the old ones, to mend the tears in the fabric of her family and her domain. Her connection to Hecate is paramount. A mentor, a guide, a source of ancient wisdom, Hecate is the anchor that grounds Melinoë in her purpose. Their relationship is one of mutual respect and deep affection, a bond forged in the crucible of shared responsibility. Hecate sees Melinoë's potential, even when Melinoë doubts herself and she pushes her to embrace her destiny. What about Odysseus, the cunning strategist, the seasoned warrior, the reluctant mentor? His presence in the crossroads is a reminder of the war that rages on the surface, a constant pressure that weighs on Melinoë's shoulders. Their relationship is one of pragmatic necessity, a partnership forged in the fires of conflict. He offers his expertise, his experience, his tactical brilliance, but there's a distance between them, a sense of shared burden that prevents true intimacy. And then there's Dora, the restless shade, the embodiment of youthful energy and unbridled enthusiasm. Her loyalty to Melinoë is unwavering, her spirit infectious. She's a reminder of what Melinoë is fighting for, a symbol of hope in a world shrouded in darkness. Their relationship is one of sisterly affection, a bond forged in shared dreams and a common desire to restore balance to the underworld. Melinoë's relationships are defined by duty, by responsibility, by the weight of expectations. She's not free to explore her own desires in the same way that ZAGREUS was. Her path is laid out before her, and she must follow it, even if it means sacrificing her own happiness. Her romantic options, unlike ZAGREUS's, feel intrinsically tied to the narrative. They aren't just opportunities for personal growth, they're potential alliances, strategic partnerships that could tip the balance of power in the war against Chronos. The stakes are higher, the consequence is more profound. Consider her relationship with Moros, the embodiment of inevitable doom. Their connection is fraught with tension, a constant reminder of the sacrifices that must be made. He sees the darkness within her, the potential for destruction, and he challenges her to confront it. Their interactions are often uncomfortable, even painful, but they're essential for Melinoë's growth. And then there's Hypnos, the god of sleep, now freed from his imprisonment and owing Melinoë a great debt. Will she try to collect? His perpetual drowsiness and good nature are the perfect foil for Melinoë's intensity, and their interactions offer moments of levity in an otherwise grim world. One key difference is how each protagonist builds trust. ZAGREUS earned trust through repeated acts of kindness, through consistent support, through a willingness to listen and to understand. He proved himself worthy of friendship, of love, of loyalty. Melinoë, on the other hand, often has to demand trust. She's a princess, a leader, a warrior. She doesn't have the luxury of slowly building relationships over time. She needs people to believe in her, to follow her, to fight for her. She inspires loyalty through her strength, her determination, her unwavering commitment to her cause. The impact on storytelling depth is significant. ZAGREUS's relationships create a sense of warmth, of community, of found family. His journey is one of personal growth, of self-discovery, of finding his place in the world. Melinoë's relationships, on the other hand, create a sense of urgency, of tension, of high stakes. Her journey is one of leadership, of sacrifice, of saving the world. So, which approach is more effective? Does the warmth and intimacy of ZAGREUS's relationships resonate more deeply with players? Or does the high-stakes drama of Melinoë's connections create a more compelling narrative? It's a matter of personal preference, of course, but it's clear that both characters offer unique and rewarding experiences. The supporting cast in each game reflects the protagonist's journey. In Hades, the characters are quirky, eccentric, and often hilarious. They provide moments of levity and comic relief, even in the darkest of times. They're a reminder that even in the underworld, there's still room for joy, for laughter, for connection. In Hades 2, the characters are more serious, more world-weary, more burdened by the war against Chronos. They're a reflection of the darker tone of the game, a reminder of the sacrifices that must be made. Family dynamics are also a key difference. ZAGREUS's relationship with Hades is the central conflict of the first game. It's a story of rebellion, of defiance, of a son trying to escape his father's shadow. Melinoë's relationship with Hades, on the other hand, is one of respect, of admiration, of a daughter trying to live up to her father's expectations. She's not rebelling against him, she's fighting to protect his legacy. Her relationship with Persephone is also crucial. She seeks her mother's guidance, her support, her love. It's a bond that has been strained by separation, by the events of the first game, but it's a bond that Melinoë is determined to restore. The impact of player actions on character growth is also different. In Hades, player choices often affect ZAGREUS's relationships in subtle ways. A kind word, a thoughtful gift, a willingness to listen. These small actions can strengthen bonds and deepen connections. In Hades 2, player choices can have more significant consequences. Alliances can be forged, betrayals can be enacted, destinies can be altered. The player has more agency in shaping the relationships between the characters, which in turn affects the outcome of the story. Ultimately, both ZAGREUS and MELINOE offer compelling and rewarding relationship dynamics. ZAGREUS builds bridges, fosters connections, and creates a sense of community. MELINOE restores bonds, demands loyalty, and fights for her family and her domain. Each approach is unique, each approach is effective, and each approach contributes to the overall richness and depth of the Hades universe. But this intricate web of relationships exists within a larger framework. The House of Hades, the Crossroads, the very realms themselves. They are not just backdrops, but active participants in the story. How do these environments shape the characters, and how do the characters, in turn, shape their world? That's the question we'll explore next, as we delve into the world building and environmental storytelling of the Hades saga. Chapter 5: World Building and Environmental Storytelling, Realms of Influence. The House of Hades. It's more than just a location, isn't it? It's a character in itself. The house is a hub, a place of relative safety amidst the chaos of the underworld. It's static, yet ever-evolving, reflecting ZAGREUS' progress and the changing relationships within. Think about it, new decorations appear, characters relocate, and the very layout shifts as you unlock new areas. It's a subtle but constant reminder that even in the unchanging realm of the dead, things are never truly static. And what about the denizens of the house? They're not just window dressing. Each character, from Achilles to Nyx, has their own routines, their own stories that unfold with each conversation. They react to ZAGREUS' successes and failures, offering encouragement, advice, or the occasional sardonic remark. These interactions breathe life into the house, making it feel like a real, lived-in space, despite its otherworldly nature. Now, compare that to the Crossroads Inn. Immediately, you notice a stark difference. This isn't a place of refuge. It's a staging ground. The Crossroads is a dynamic space, constantly changing as Melinoë gathers resources, unlocks incantations, and pushes further into her quest. The very ground seems to pulse with Hecate's magic, a constant reminder of the power that resides within. But it's not just the Crossroads itself that sets apart. It's the realms beyond. While ZAGREUS battled through the familiar landscapes of Tartarus, Asphodel, Elysium, and the Temple of Styx, Melinoë ventures into entirely new territories. Eridanus, with its shimmering, poisoned rivers and the fractured depths, a haunting, shattered realm, are just glimpses of what awaits. These aren't just new levels, are they? They're reflections of the story. The war against Chronos has scarred the underworld, leaving its mark on every corner of the land. The environments themselves tell a story of devastation and struggle, a constant reminder of the stakes involved in Melinoë's quest. You can practically feel the weight of Chronos' influence, the way he's warped and twisted the very fabric of reality. Think about the environmental details in the oppressive heat of Asphodel, the serene beauty of Elysium, the industrial grime of the Temple of Styx. Each location was carefully crafted to evoke a specific mood, to reflect the challenges and rewards that awaited ZAGREUS. And the same holds true for Abactus. The shimmering, toxic waters of Eridanus speak to the corruption that has seeped into the underworld. The desolate landscapes of the fractured depths hint at the fractured state of time itself. And let's not forget the lore. Both games are steeped in Greek mythology, drawing inspiration from ancient myths and legends. But they don't just regurgitate these stories. They reinterpret them, adding their own unique twists and perspectives. The codex entries, the character dialogues, the environmental details, they all contribute to a rich and immersive world that feels both familiar and utterly unique. The story was largely confined to the underworld. ZAGREUS' journey was a personal one, a quest for freedom from his father's oppressive rule. But the scope is much broader. Melinoë's quest is not just about personal liberation, it's about saving the entire world from the clutches of Chronos. And that difference in scope is reflected in the environments themselves. The environments feel more expansive, more dangerous, more alive. They're not just obstacles to overcome, they're active participants in the story. The enemies you face, the resources you gather, the secrets you uncover. They all contribute to a deeper understanding of the world and the challenges that lie ahead. Consider the way each protagonist interacts with their environment. ZAGREUS, driven by a desire to escape, often treats the underworld as an obstacle course. He's focused on reaching the surface, on breaking free from the confines of his father's domain. He doesn't necessarily care about the politics of the underworld or the struggles of its inhabitants. His goal is simply to get out. MELINOE, on the other hand, is deeply invested in the fate of the underworld. She's not just trying to escape, she's trying to save it. She forges alliances with the gods, she gathers resources to strengthen her allies, and she delves into the secrets of the underworld in order to understand her enemy. Her journey is not just about personal liberation, it's about responsibility, about protecting the world she calls home. And that difference in motivation is reflected in the way they interact with the environment. ZAGREUS smashes through obstacles, he leaps over chasms, he dodges traps. He's all about speed and efficiency. MELINOE, on the other hand, is more methodical, more deliberate. She takes the time to explore, to gather resources, to learn about the history and lore of each location. Think about the way each game utilizes environmental storytelling. In the decaying architecture of Tartarus, the lush gardens of Elysium, the chaotic waterways of the Temple of Styx, they all tell a story about the history and culture of the underworld. They reveal the personalities of the gods who rule each realm and the struggles of the souls who reside there. In the environmental storytelling is even more nuanced. The shattered landscapes of the fractured depths, the poisoned rivers of Eridanus, the decaying ruins of the surface, they all speak to the devastation wrought by Chronos and the desperate struggle to reclaim what was lost. The locations aren't just pretty backdrops, are they? They are integral to the narrative, enriching the experience and deepening our understanding of the characters and their motivations. The art direction, the music, the sound design, they all work together to create a cohesive and immersive world that draws you in and refuses to let go. Consider the impact of the House Contractor Inn. Each upgrade, each renovation, each new addition to the House of Hades not only provided gameplay benefits but also subtly altered the atmosphere and the relationships within. The house felt more welcoming, more lived in, more like a home. It was a tangible representation of ZAGREUS' progress and the bonds he forged along the way. Will offer a similar system. Will Melinoë be able to influence the environment around her, to shape the crossroads to her liking? It remains to be seen, but the possibilities are tantalizing. Imagine being able to rebuild the surface, to restore its former glory, to create a haven for the gods and mortals alike. That would be a powerful symbol of hope in a world consumed by darkness. And let's not forget the importance of visual variety. Offered a diverse range of environments, each with its own unique aesthetic and challenges. From the fiery depths of Tartarus to the tranquil gardens of Elysium, each location felt distinct and memorable. Seems poised to offer even greater visual variety. The glimpses we've seen of Eridanus, the fractured depths, and the surface suggest a world that is both beautiful and terrifying, a world that is constantly evolving and surprising. The art direction is stunning, the attention to detail is remarkable, and the overall effect is breathtaking. But what about the inhabitants of these realms? How do they shape the environment, and how does the environment shape them? In The Denizens of the Underworld were a colourful and diverse cast of characters, each with their own unique stories and motivations. They offered ZAGREUS guidance, assistance, and the occasional witty remark. In The supporting cast seems equally compelling. From the enigmatic Hecate to the stoic Odysseus, each character has a distinct personality and a vital role to play in Melinoë's quest. And their interactions with the environment are just as important as their interactions with the protagonist. Think about the way the shades in Tartarus react to ZAGREUS' presence. They cower in fear, they offer cryptic warnings, they sometimes even attack. Their behavior reflects the oppressive atmosphere of Tartarus and the hopelessness of their situation. In The creatures you encounter in each realm seem to be even more deeply intertwined with the environment. The poisonous denizens of Eridanus, the shattered remnants of the fractured depths, the corrupted creatures of the surface. They are all reflections of the devastation wrought by Chronos. The environment isn't just a backdrop, is it? It's a character in itself, a living, breathing entity that shapes the story and influences the lives of its inhabitants. And the way each protagonist interacts with that environment is a key factor in shaping their own journey and their ultimate destiny. But is it enough? Is the world building of Hades and Hades to Senken simply window dressing? Or is there a deeper purpose to the chaos, the beauty, the sorrow, and the triumph? The answer, as you might suspect, lies in the relationships forged along the way. Because next, we'll delve into the bonds that truly define ZAGREUS and Melinoë, and how those bonds impact their worlds. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. Chapter 6, Legacy and Impact, which prince reigns supreme. So, we've journeyed through the depths, dissected the combat, and explored the relationships that bind ZAGREUS and Melinoë to their respective worlds. Now, we arrive at the ultimate question: which of these divine protagonists truly reigns supreme? Which one leaves a more lasting mark on the roguelike genre, and more importantly, on the player? This isn't about declaring a winner in a competition. It's about understanding the unique strengths and weaknesses each character brings to the table. It's about examining their impact on accessibility, player investment, and the overall memorability of the experience. Let's start with ZAGREUS. His legacy is undeniable. He was the prince who started it all, the rebellious son who dared to defy his father and carve his own path to the surface. His journey is a classic coming-of-age story filled with angst, determination, and a healthy dose of familial drama. One of ZAGREUS's greatest strengths lies in his accessibility. His combat style is visceral and immediate. The Olympian boons, the varied weapon aspects, it all coalesces into a system that's easy to pick up but difficult to master. You feel every swing of the Stygian blade, every shot of the eternal spear. And that's crucial, because it wasn't just a roguelike, it was a narrative masterpiece disguised as one. ZAGREUS's constant banter with the denizens of the Underworld, his growing relationships with figures like Thanatos and Megara, these were the elements that truly elevated the game. He made failure feel meaningful. Every death was a chance to learn, to upgrade, to deepen your bonds with the characters around you. It was a gameplay loop that was both addictive and emotionally resonant. But ZAGREUS isn't without his flaws. His story, while compelling, is ultimately a fairly linear one. He wants to escape, and he keeps trying until he succeeds. His character development, while present, is more about him discovering who he already is, rather than undergoing a radical transformation. Now, let's turn our attention to Melinoë, the princess of the Underworld, a figure shrouded in mystery and wielding the power of witchcraft. Her journey is drastically different from ZAGREUS's. She isn't escaping, she's fighting to reclaim what was lost. She's not just trying to find herself, she's trying to save the entire Underworld. Melinoë's combat is more deliberate, more tactical. Her magic-based attacks require careful planning and positioning. The addition of the Great Arcana system adds another layer of complexity, forcing you to consider not just your boons, but also how they synergize with your chosen cards. This increased complexity can be both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it offers a greater depth of customization and strategic options. On the other hand, it can be overwhelming for new players. The learning curve is steeper, and it takes more time to truly master Melinoë's unique fighting style. But it's in her relationships that Melinoë truly shines. While ZAGREUS was building new bonds, Melinoë is tasked with restoring and maintaining existing ones. She's a mediator, a healer, a leader. She's trying to bring her family back together, to heal the wounds that have festered for centuries. And that's what makes her story so compelling. It's not just about defeating Chronos, it's about rebuilding the Underworld. It's about forging a new future for her family and her people. It's about accepting the burden of responsibility and becoming the leader she was always meant to be. So, which character is ultimately better? The answer, as you might suspect, is that it depends entirely on what you're looking for in a roguelike protagonist. If you value accessibility, a straightforward narrative, and a visceral combat experience, then ZAGREUS is likely the better choice. He's the perfect entry point into the world of a character who's easy to root for and whose journey is both satisfying and emotionally rewarding. But if you're looking for a more complex combat system, a deeper strategic layer, and a more nuanced exploration of family dynamics, then Melinoë may be more your speed. She's a character who demands more of your time and attention, but who ultimately offers a more rewarding and thought-provoking experience. Consider the impact on the roguelike genre itself. ZAGREUS redefined what a roguelike could be. He proved that the genre could be about more than just challenging gameplay and procedural generation. He showed that it could be a vehicle for compelling storytelling, memorable characters, and genuine emotional connection. MELINOE, on the other hand, is pushing the genre in new directions. She's demonstrating that roguelikes can be even more complex, more strategic, and more narratively ambitious. She's challenging the conventions of the genre and paving the way for future innovations. Think about the lasting appeal of each character. ZAGREUS will always be remembered as the prince who defied his father and escaped the Underworld. He's an icon, a symbol of rebellion and self-discovery. MELINOE, on the other hand, will be remembered as the princess who saved the Underworld and restored her family. She's a symbol of leadership, responsibility, and the power of healing. Ultimately, the choice is yours. Both ZAGREUS and MELINOE are exceptional protagonists, each with their own unique strengths and weaknesses. They both offer a compelling and memorable experience, and they both contribute to the rich tapestry of the universe. Perhaps the real victory isn't about choosing one over the other, but about appreciating the diversity and depth that both characters bring to the table. About recognizing that their stories, while different, are ultimately complementary. About understanding that they both represent different facets of the same core themes: family, rebellion, and the struggle for self-determination. The legacy of isn't just about the gameplay, the art style, or the music. It's about the characters. It's about the relationships we forge with them, the emotions they evoke in us, and the lessons we learn from their journeys. And in that respect, both ZAGREUS and MELINOE have achieved something truly remarkable. They've created a lasting impact on the roguelike genre, on the gaming world, and on the hearts of players everywhere. But this discovery was only the beginning, because next we uncover the untold stories lurking within the very music of itself, revealing how sound and song amplify the emotional core of the game and further cement its place in gaming history. In the shadowed depths of the Underworld, where ancient powers stir and forgotten magics awaken,